Well, thank you all. I want to reciprocate James's note of gratitude and give it back to you all and for coming today, for being part of this conversation. And of course, James and his team. James, you know this is Sarah's and Catherine's meeting, right? I mean, they're keeping a very militant schedule, so I'm going to stick with it. And I want to thank you both, too, for all the great stuff you've been doing. And it's really been a pleasure to work with you both as part of the research lab. At the NEA, just those of you who may not or may need a little quick refresher about the NEA, we are, in fact, the largest federal funder of arts projects all around the country, nationwide, in every kind of community you can think of. Arts, creativity, arts education, certainly. We're a fairly, our budget right now is a little bit over 200 million, so a relatively modestly sized endowment, arts endowment of the government. We do, however, do a lot with that money. I mean, it goes very long, far and wide. We have this amplification that happens because not only do we give direct grants, but we also, through our state arts agencies, which tend to re-grant our money, about 40% of our money goes to localities, all kinds of places, urban, rural, et cetera. And especially as the NEA and a lot of the federal agencies have really taken seriously the imperative from the White House to focus on equity and underserved communities. That's redoubled our efforts, and that's important from a research lens, of course, because you need to have good data and a good conceptual grasp of who you're serving as an agency. So this is really tied research and practice in a way that I'm very proud of at the agency. It's because of our leadership right now under Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson and our terrific colleagues at the NEA. So love for you to check out the NEA's website if you don't know more, if you want to know more about them. But I am the director of the Office of Research and Analysis, where we apply typically social and behavioral sciences to questions about the arts ecosystem, but also about arts value and impact. But what I want to impress upon you is that, in fact, health and well-being, what we're talking about today, is not just sort of a whimsical or kind of initiative on our part. It's actually something that's embedded deeply in our roots, and really what we're trying to do as part of the NEA strategic plan, in fact. As you can see there, the goal is to integrate, one of our key goals is to integrate the arts with strategies that promote the well-being and resilience of people and communities. And this is reflected in two objectives, one focusing on individual health and well-being through the arts, and another on systems-wide approaches that involve, say, public health, community health approaches. We also have a 5-year research agenda, which is kind of runs in parallel to the strategic plan. And in fact, many of the research questions, as you can surmise, are about arts and health as well. This was a summit that we held in January, and I want to just also share that there's a kind of a zeitgeist going on in the government right now around health, but specifically how arts and cultural institutions and activities can be, core to the way we envision healthy communities. This was in January, I believe the last week of January. There was a summit, national summit. Some of you, I think, came to it. It was, and if you don't know about it, it's video. It's been recorded. You can look at all these great sessions, performances, panels, speakers. That on the far bottom right, I mentioned Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson, our chair, standing with the Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who came and gave a very eloquent, moving kind of call to action around arts and health. You have other luminaries there, and just check it out if you can. But one of the things that came out of it was action, not just an event. We actually announced some things. One of the things we announced is at the federal level, we're going to be working with our partners. In fact, an interagency working group co-chaired by HHS Secretary, Health and Human Services, that is Secretary Becerra and Dr. Jackson, on arts, health, and civic infrastructure. So that brings in to our net, if you will, as collaborators, not only those that are traditional health agencies, but those from transportation, labor, housing, and so forth. So that's an initiative. We just had our first meeting. We're really looking forward to getting some cross-governmental work on that. Before I leave this slide, I want to say, and I've already halfway through, but let me just say that we have one thing you can also look up if you're interested. Is there's something called the People and Places or Thriving People and Places Plan, which is out of Department of Health and Human Services. It formerly was called the Equitable Long-Term Care and Recovery Resilience Initiative, which is a mouthful, so they condensed it. But the point is, it does showcases a cross-sectoral, cross-agency and to some extent cross-sectoral approach to dealing with health and well-being, and the arts are embedded throughout several parts of it. So I'm going to dash through these next slides. Surgeon General's report, of course, is another stimulus or a way of thinking about this. Many of you are familiar with this advisory that came out last year about loneliness, where he said, 15 cigarettes a day is pretty much the impact of loneliness on human health. A lot of great data there. But the reason I mention it, and this is just a chart to show you from the American Time Use Survey, which is collected by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, how people are increasingly spending time alone. And this has been going on well before the pandemic, in contrast to the share who are participating with friends or with companions, doing any kind of activity with them. And so that divergence, I think, is what the arts are really great at countering or addressing. In fact, we know through research how central civic engagement, or rather the arts are to social and civic engagement. We know that arts, a key motivator for people going to arts events is often to be with family and friends. It's well documented through surveys. We also know about people, there's a strong correlation between people going to arts events and then going and volunteering in their communities and taking part in civic activities. And conversely, those who don't go to arts events, oftentimes the top barrier is they don't have someone to go with. And we know this is the General Social Survey as well as the Survey of Public Participation in the Arts. We also collect a lot of data about the arts through our federal partners. Just doing a plug here for those of you who are researchers. We have a couple of data repositories and other resources for those of you who want to download data. We just announced a new tool called the National Arts Statistics and Evidence Reporting Center, which has a whole bunch of translational documents about the arts. And it's not necessarily about the arts and health, but it maps out from the federal level data about the arts. And it sort of tells you what we know about artists, what we know about arts workers, about arts participation, and about arts and cultural assets. We also have a variety of publications. So this is a bit of an ad, of course, but a variety of publications that get at the arts and health over the years, ranging from the arts in early childhood to the arts and aging, to the arts and the opioid crisis and other things. And these are all, we're really proud of this work because it's often the result of a long drawn out process where we work with other federal agencies to advise us. And we obviously commission top experts to do these reports and dig into the research on it. Another couple of initiatives I want you to know about. Somebody was asking me, are any art forms particularly well positioned for some of the more biomedical research oriented kinds of studies? And in fact, music has made some strides in that regard. I'm not saying that visual arts, there aren't some good studies there. We're very proud to support a lot of them. But music is one that has actually captivated the National Institutes of Health, which is, of course, the world's largest funder of biomedical and behavioral research. There you see the former NIH director. He's still active in this program, Dr. Francis Collins, with the soprano Renee Fleming. We co-convened an event in December. Nisha, I see you, who's going to speak soon. You were there and others were there. And it was really a brilliant way of showcasing some of our co-funded research on this topic. We also support something called the Sound Health Network, which is an online clearinghouse and resource center about music and health in particular, if those of you are interested. I want to just make two more quick plugs. Creative Forces is a program we have that is about our partnership with the military. This is the Departments of Defense and Veterans Affairs, where we work on addressing sort of the signature wounds of war, psychological traumas for the most part, through creative arts therapies. That's art therapy, dance therapy, and music therapy. And we not only do this in a clinical setting, but we now increasingly are giving grants to support work in the communities with those kinds of personnel, military connected personnel. But there's a really rigorous research agenda tied around the clinical side, which involves everything from neuroscientific studies to qualitative research. Finally, this is really the thing I should have led with, is we have a research grants program. And you've heard about the research labs program a little bit because of James. We're very proud to fund this one here at UPenn. But we actually have about 29 research labs in the field. These are institutions we're supporting to do projects over a long period of time. So it's multi-year funding focused on bringing together transdisciplinary teams with arts organizations to study a problem. And actually half of them, I was going over this the other day, about half of them are actually in the bailiwick of arts and health right now. We also have the research grants in the arts, which are more for one-off studies. So if you're researchers or want to partner with a research organization, feel free to come to us. There's a deadline every year. And I'm not going to go over these, but just to give you a quick snapshot, these are just three out of almost at random from our current research grants. One is supporting a randomized waitlist control study examining the effects of improv theater and cognitive behavioral therapy on the social well-being of youth with anxiety and depression. Another one looking at the impact and effectiveness of a digital music-based mindfulness program developed for Black American adults experiencing race-based anxiety, And one actually done with the former research colleague of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who many of you know kind of pioneered the concept of flow, is going to be using that same approach to understand the impact of photography on the perceived well-being of older adults. Just to give you some ideas there, and I'm willing to make these slides right afterward. Finally, one of the research labs that I wanted to draw your attention to, just to give you an idea of what we're doing with the labs, is called EpiArts, and that's at the University of Florida. Really proud to work with them. They're in turn partnering with Daisy Fancourt, who's an epidemiological researcher at the University College London. And so together we've been working on really looking at how arts and cultural engagement shows up in population health studies, both in the US and in the UK. So that's been very fruitful. But I want to give you this broad overview and hope it wasn't too much. I looked at it, but